Hi, it's Liz from G-Mum's Place again, and today I'm reviewing The Accused by John Grisham. It is number 3 in the Theodore Boone series and was published in 2012. Here is the synopsis. Believe me, he's convinced I'm guilty and he's out for blood. Theodore Boone is obsessed with the courtroom, justice and prosecuting the guilty. But now, 13-year-old Theo stands accused. Stolen property has been found in his locker and soon Theo is under investigation. Somebody is sabotaging his reputation and framing him as a criminal. As the evidence against him mounts, Theo must use all his legal powers to chase down the real thief. Can Theo convince the police he's the victim of a crime he did not commit? And here are the opening paragraphs. The accused was a wealthy man by the name of Pete Duffy, and his alleged crime was murder. According to the police and the prosecutors, Mr. Duffy strangled his lovely wife in their attractive home on the 6th fairway of a golf course where he, the accused, was playing golf that day, alone. If convicted, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. If acquitted, he would walk out of the courtroom a free man. As things turned out, the jury did not find him guilty or not guilty. This was his second trial. 4 months earlier, the first trial had ended suddenly when Judge Henry Gantry decided it would be unfair to continue. He declared a mistrial and sent everyone home, including Pete Duffy, who remained free on bond. In most murder cases, the accused cannot afford to post a bond and stay out of jail while waiting on a trial. But because Mr. Duffy had money and good lawyers, he had been free as a bird since the police found his wife's body and the state accused him of killing her. He had been seen around town, dining in his favourite restaurants, watching basketball games at Stratton College, attending church with greater frequency, and of course playing lots of golf. As he waited on his first trial, he seemed unconcerned with the prospect of a trial and the possibility of prison. Now, though, facing his second trial, and with a new eyewitness ready to be used by the prosecution, Pete Duffy was rumoured to be very worried. The new eyewitness was Bobby Escobar, a 19-year-old illegal immigrant who was working at the golf course on the day Mrs. Duffy was murdered. He saw Mr. Duffy enter his home at about the same time she died, then hurry away and resume his golf game. For a lot of reasons, Bobby did not come forward until the first trial was underway. Once Judge Gantry heard Bobby's story, he declared a mistrial. Now, with Bobby ready to testify, most of the folks in Strattonburg, who had been closely watching the Duffy case, were expecting a guilty verdict. It was almost impossible to find someone who believed Pete Duffy did not kill his wife, and it was also difficult to find a person who did not want to watch the trial. A murder trial in the Strattonburg courthouse was a rare event. Indeed, murder was rare in Stratton County, and a large crowd began gathering at 8 a.m, just after the front doors of the courthouse opened. The jury had been selected 3 days earlier. It was time for the courtroom drama to begin. Here's another short section of the book. Theo's passcode was Judge 58343, in honour of his beloved dog. He pulled open the door and immediately knew something was wrong. Several things were missing. Theo occasionally suffered asthma attacks, which required him to use an inhaler. He kept one in his pocket at all times, and he kept a 3-pack of reserves in his locker. These were gone, as was a blue and red Minnesota Twins cap he kept on a hook in case it rained. 2 unused notepads were missing. His books were there, stacked on top of each other. He froze for a moment, staring into the locker to make sure he wasn't dreaming, then glanced around to see if anyone, the thief, might be watching. No one seemed to be paying attention to him. He shifted his books, poked around, and finally came to the conclusion that his locker had been broken into. He had been robbed. Small-time thievery happened occasionally. The new lockers, though, with their advanced security system, had virtually eliminated such break-ins. He looked down the hall and up to a spot above a large wall clock. There was an empty bracket where a security camera had once been installed. The camera was gone because the school was in the process of updating its video monitoring system. Theo wasn't sure what to do. If he reported the theft, he would spend the next hour or so in the principal's office filling out paperwork. And worse still, he would have to deal with 100 nosy questions from his friends and classmates. As he walked to the cafeteria, he decided to wait, to think about it, to try and figure out how someone could learn his code and break in his locker. He could always report it tomorrow. Theo soon had another problem. He unchained his bike, wrapped the chain around his handlebars as always, and pushed off. Instantly he realised his front tyre was flat. He got off his bike, examined the tyre, and found a small gash where someone had punctured the sidewall. Theo was in the midst of an unlucky run with his bike tyres. In the previous 3 months he had collected 2 nails, a piece of glass from a soft drink bottle, a jagged piece of metal, and he had punctured 2 front tyres on account of reckless riding. His father was not happy with this, and when the subject of the cost of bike tyres came up over dinner, things were tense. This latest puncture, though, was no accident. Someone had deliberately stuck a sharp object into his tyre. And the last section. Theo suspected the vandal was another student, but who and why? Theo was lost in these thoughts when, literally, his world shattered. There was a door that led from his office to the rear parking lot of Boone and Boone, and the top half of the door was comprised of 4 panes of glass. A large rock suddenly burst through the glass, crashing loudly and sending shards of broken glass everywhere, onto the bookshelves, over his desk, across the floor. Judge jumped and barked loudly. Theo instinctively threw both arms over his head in case there was another rock on the way. He waited for a few seconds, trying to catch his breath, then bolted to his feet. He yanked open the door, but saw no one outside. Judge, growling and barking, jumped down the steps and raced around the small parking lot, but found nothing. The rock was the size of a softball and came to rest next to Judge's bed. Elsa rushed in and exclaimed, "Theo, what in the world?" Then she saw the shattered window panes and broken glass. "Are you okay?" "I think so," Theo said, still in shock. "What happened?" "Someone threw a rock," Theo said as he picked it up. They examined it. Mrs. Boone appeared and asked, "What's going on back here?" Then Mr. Boone walked in behind her and asked the same thing. For a few minutes they inspected the damage and scratched their heads. Elsa found a piece of glass in Theo's hair, but there were no wounds. "I'll call the police," Mr. Boone said. "Good idea," said Mrs. Boone. "Any idea who did this?" Elsa asked. "No," Theo replied. These are some of the events leading up to Theo being accused of theft. This book is cleverly written, and John Grisham keeps us in suspense about the real thief for most of the book. It is an excellent story, and I am looking forward to reading the next book. As always, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, smash the like button, say hi in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this video.